In this mini-lecture, we will examine the scope of human geography through cultural ecology and its approaches. Geography as a discipline consists of two main branches, physical and human. Physical geography focuses on environmental dynamics like water quality, soil erosion, and forest management. This course, however, will center on human geography, which is the study of people, places, and the relationship between people and the environment. Therefore, the two branches do touch upon each other at times, as shown in the diagram in the slide. Please take a moment and study the diagram. Today, geographers deal with cultural ecology, which is a subfield within human geography that studies how humans interact with the land around them. In other words, what do humans do to the land, with the land, and on the land? To understand cultural ecology, first let's define what nature and culture mean. Nature in geography simply means the physical environment. Culture is defined as a complex system of shared beliefs and practices shaped by humans, and there are many different cultures all over the world. Can you think of another culture unlike our own? How are we different and how are we the same? During the 18th century, European scholars believed that nature and culture were completely separate entities and that humans were superior to nature. This nature-culture dualism was also used to subsequently rank societies. For example, Western civilized societies moved away from a primitive lifestyle and therefore were seen as superior because it was believed by them that people who lived closer to nature were inferior. The closer you lived to nature and the more primitive, the more inferior you were. This belief has been rejected by many geographers and social sciences because human-environment interactions are really more complex than the simplicity of this idea. Although prejudice still exists, nature-culture dualism doesn't apply anymore in contemporary thought. Therefore, geographers have replaced nature-culture dualism with cultural ecology. Think about why this idea has been rejected as we examine the four approaches to cultural ecology in the next few slides. The first approach is environmental determinism. This approach is the belief that natural factors control the development of human physical and mental qualities. Some ancient scholars thought that all natural phenomena, including people, were made up of four elements as shown in the diagram in varying degrees. Environmental determinism attributed cultural differences to human traits that reflected these four elements and were strongly shaped by physical factors including climate. In other words, human diversity resulted from both climate and location factors and were shaped by our environment. For example, historical scholars believe that plateau environments produced people who were docile, and people with the sharpest minds came from the more temperate climates. And another, skin color, was determined by where people lived. The closer to the equator, the darker the skin. The second is possibilism. This approach states that people use their creativity to decide how to respond to the conditions or constraints of a particular natural environment. This theory does not see that the environment is the sole force shaping human society, but is still controlling us to an extent. For example, when you live in a colder region, you would make the decision to insulate your home with a higher rating of insulation. Or if you lived in the hot southwest desert of Arizona, you would want to build an adobe-style home to withstand the heat. The third approach is humans are modifiers of the earth. This is the ability of humans to modify their surroundings. In this theory, humans are the driving force in shaping the environment. In other words, human activities transform natural landscapes. This process results in what is called cultural landscape. Cultural landscapes are the results of humans transforming the natural landscapes through their activities. In Figure 1.4, United Arab Emirates created their own indoor skiing environment. This is a synthetic example of a cultural landscape. They created a new landscape that transformed the existing landscape. Another example would be the rice terraces you find in Southeast Asia. This approach also involves seeing nature as a social construction, which is an invented concept derived from shared perceptions and understanding. For example, in the 18th century, the U.S. wilderness was seen as a vast wasteland, but now it is strongly associated with natural beauty. What changed? Our perception of it changed because we began putting more value to it and now want to preserve it. And the fourth and last approach is that Earth is a dynamic integrated system. This approach suggests that people are intricately connected to the natural world. In other words, the Earth is made up of diverse components that interact in complex ways and is constantly changing due to human-induced events. Global warming is a good example of this theory. When humans emit an excessive amount of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, we warm up the atmosphere to the point where ice caps begin to melt. The melting ice caps then cause sea levels to rise, affecting low-lying areas and people who live around them. Can you see this ever-changing cycle, this dynamic integration of humans and the environment? Please pause the video and answer the following. Describe how cultural ecology evolved from the idea of environmental determinism to Earth as a dynamic integrated system. What is the key element in all four approaches? In your own words and using the text as a guide, be thorough and specific in your answer.